Well, hello, my name is Justin Kelly. I'm one of the owners of James Home Services, and I've also been a franchisee with James myself. We've joined James, my wife and I, in February 2010. But the purpose of what we're doing today is we're starting to just introduce some of our team around the country, just have some down-to-earth, normal chats with people to see how they're going so you can hear their stories and get to know them and just see that the success that can come through having your own business. So without me saying too much, I'd love to introduce an amazing couple that are currently in Foster, New South Wales, on the beautiful, central North Coast?
Mid-North.
North Coast. Well, I'll let you both introduce yourself. So who have we got with us today?
I'm Pia, and my husband Harold. We joined the business in November last year, so 2003. Get it right?
2023?
Yes, thank you. I was made redundant and was looking for something different to do. Harold had been in retail for 20-odd years and had gotten tired of hearing the same story revolve around, and we started looking at different opportunities, and James was one of them, and 9 months later, here we are.
Awesome. And where were you in Australia when you first started thinking you needed a change?
We were both in Sydney, and Sydney was never where we wanted to end up. It's just that career-wise, there were opportunities there, and I took them, and Harold followed.
Yeah.
And so when that was done, the opportunity to get out of Sydney is another reason why we started looking at our own business.
Yeah, great. So what took you to Foster, Tuncurry?
I'm originally born and raised in Foster, so local boy, and I've still got family here as well. So and family's getting a little bit older, so it's an opportunity to come back, and also just the lifestyle itself with the beaches, the ocean. It's a real tourist mecca on the mid-north coast. So Christmas time it gets quite hectic with tourists and stuff that come through. So just that sort of lifestyle itself, sort of laid back more so than what it is in that hustle and bustle of the Sydney side of it all through.
And taking 15 minutes to travel, 30 kilometres is great, as opposed to travelling 15 kilometres in 45 minutes, as most Sydney-siders would be aware of.
I was just going to ask you, are you missing the commute to work every morning?
Yeah, no.
there's a word in between there.
Yeah. So what, I guess, what led you to have a look or even consider having your own business? Because, I mean, both of you have had sort of corporate jobs for a long time. What planted the seed?
Yeah, more so something that we've got more control ourselves with. So we can actually take the business side of itself. So, there's a whole lot of ground rules that you still need to follow through, but the day-to-day running of that is pretty well much up to yourself. So the decisions you make, you're the end person at that point that makes that one through. So you make some good ones, you make some bad ones, you learn from it and move on. It's not a case of where you've got someone in corporate saying that this is the line that we need to sort of toe through, right, wrong, or indifferent. So
and it allowed us to be where we wanted to be. By being your own boss, you can move away from this, central Sydney side of things, or, even when we were in Melbourne, I could have looked at going to country Victoria as an option. Running your own business means that where you want to live and work is up to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So how have you found working together?
It's been a challenge because when we were in retail together, we vowed we never ever work together again side by side. But it's different this way because we're both equals, where before it was I was more the boss, where Pia was the sort of worker through. So just the hierarchy of the situation of that we were sort of looking at. But now where we are equals through, yes, we still don't agree on everything 100%, but as long as we're pushing it to our end goal, it works a lot better through that way. And our communication style has changed multiple times to be able to talk to each other, where it's not a case of where you're trying to talk down to or talking as of directing someone. It's also getting that advice through at the same point. So it's sort of been a big learning curve for me at that, more so, I think, of being able to have someone that is an equal more so than just a employee themselves. Yes.
And it also allows us to play to our strengths.
Yes.
So
yes.
that's and that sort of, we already knew that going into this, that I've got more of the admin skill, and Harold's more of the people person, relationship buildings type thing. And that's just because of our history. And being able to use that in our own business has sort of, got us to where we are, which is looking really healthy, surprisingly.
Good. Yeah, because it's, I guess in my role, as you know, I walk through the journey with everyone looking at James. And I remember when we went through, we had some very rigorous discussions, didn't we, Pia?
We did. I had some major concerns about being locked into a framework that I didn't necessarily agree with because I couldn't see it. And you quite politely and kindly said, give it a chance and you'll see why it is the way it is. And that very much, I think it was 3 months in, I kind of swung around to you, and the very first opportunity I got, I kind of went, yes, you were right. I am biting my tongue, and I am admitting defeat that the conversation needed to be had, but it was definitely a good decision we made to take on the James interior cleaning franchise and following the framework that's there. It works and really well with your client.
And it's good because it's the part of the, as you know, it's totally transparent, and so that you get to find out all these sorts of things or anything that might concern. And I guess one of the concerns, like you said, you just mentioned, is about having that framework. And with all the businesses that we've started, particularly in the last 12 months under our new subscription, that's just caused things to explode. We've just learnt so much about starting a new business. And I love your story, because how long were you actually in Foster before you started your business?
Not even 2 weeks.
Not even 2 weeks. So you just brand new moved there to a new area where essentially, yes, Harold, you were born there, but not really connected in the town anymore, like you were new?
Because we'd already been out of the area for 15 years. So you're sort of coming back in. So yes, some people are still here that you knew from 15 years ago, but there's still a lot of new people in here that you're sort of restarting again with. So
So you came in brand new to the area, started a brand new business in an industry you'd never really worked in before. Do it first time in your own business together.
Heart still
and you took on a framework. So yes, how are you feeling? That's exactly where I'm going. How are you feeling, Pia?
Back then I was extremely nervous. You know, it was literally, you know, working for yourself, you only make the money that you earn. When you're working for an employer, you get your paycheck every week. So I was very nervous about that. But obviously, you know, having that safety net of the income guarantee was great to know it was there. It was even better not needing to use it.
Well, why didn't you need to use it? What happened?
Because the marketing development that James has put us on our front foot. So we had already gotten potential leads for when we moved here. So obviously when you move to an area, there's a bit of pre-work that gets done. And one of those ones, because we knew we were going into James, was talking to a couple of real estates about what sort of need do you guys have for professional cleaners? And when one of the agencies almost jumped the counter to hug us to say, yes, please come on board, we kind of knew that was something that we could do. So when we moved to the area, we got in contact with them straight away saying we're here. And that very same week, we got work with them. So it was hard work. End of lease, vacate cleans are not easy, but the money is definitely there for them.
Yeah.
So you put the hard work in and you get paid for it. And that's helped us launch to where we've now got almost 25 regulars 9 months in. And we still get the real estates asking us quite regularly to do jobs for them.
Yep. You were just sharing about a job you had to do today. Would you mind touching on that sort of job? A bit of a horror job by the sound of it.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's all yours. You went and saw it.
We had one
Take
of the
the
real
glory.
estates that we do a lot of work with, gave us a call and said, can you come and inspect this property with us? And they really wanted us to do the clean because the place was in such a bad state that they wanted to make sure that it was done properly the first time, because they've had nothing but issues with trying to get work done, and then having people call back and just extend the whole process itself. So we stopped in, had a look. It was a real horror story, but we priced the job accordingly at the same time. They were more than happy with the price that we gave them because they knew our quality of work at the same time. So they knew that the money they were going to give out, the job was going to be completed well, and they don't have to sort of worry about it at that point. So, and that's the rapport you build with your real estates, even with your original clients, is that you make sure that you deliver that gold standard, and that they know then that if the first one that comes to mind, if they want a cleaner, is James. We get a lot of referral work from when tenants go to the real estate and said, I'm moving out, who do you recommend as a cleaner? They give our name out because they know then that the work's going to get done, and they don't have any issues then with the final inspections and bonds going back and all of those bits and pieces. So we've really built our namesake on delivering that gold standard.
Yeah, fantastic.
Well, that was one of the problems we had this week. Person's moving out. They've seen, because they're in a unit complex, they've seen other people moving out and they've seen the agents coming back and lots of people coming in and out at the end of it. And they didn't want any of that. They just want to be able to leave. So they said to the real estate, who do you recommend? And we set that quote off this afternoon. So
Great. So back to how the journey started. Where did you first see James? What made you inquire?
I saw it on Facebook. It was a ad that was running through, and when I also did an internet search on different franchises, because I did have a look at a few other ones like Hire a Hubby, those sort of ones as well, even with gyms. I looked originally at mowing and I thought, no, I'm a little bit old and I don't like the hot weather to be able to be out in the weather mowing lawns in the middle of summer. But we had a look there and then made contact with yourself, which then you sent through a bit of information. There was also at that stage, there was the news report that was still going through Facebook when about just doing the subscription model. So that sort of got us more intrigued at the same point because it was a lot safer aspect for us to get in with doing the subscription service instead of having to put all the money up front first. It makes such a difference, doesn't it, for people not having that massive outlay in the beginning and that extra financial pressure putting yourself under. Exactly. And plus,
so when you we met, went through the journey. Through that journey, you got to meet other people who had already joined, so you could talk to them. Then you got sent the agreement, and you had a couple of weeks to go through that, and had a lot of questions based on the agreement, didn't we, Pia?
We had a lot of questions the whole way through. Like my very first Zoom around, I think we cracked everyone up with the fact that I think I had like 15 questions and I asked, I think 10 of them.
That's right. I remember it was about twice as long as any Zoom around had ever done. So yes, there was a lot of questions, which is excellent because to me, it shows you really think about it. I get concerned when people go, great, it's a business, it's only $1,000 up front, I'm in. You know, there's a lot more to that decision that people need to go through and understand. So then it got to approaching the start of your business, what happened? Where did the gear, how did all that sort of stuff arrive? What did you get?
Yeah, so we were introduced to our business coach, and Ian, strangely enough, was actually from Foster. So that was like,
Yeah.
it was one of those really fluky, what do they call them? No, not sympathetic. It doesn't matter.
I think his mother was Harold's teacher or something, wasn't he, in primary?
Yes. Yes, it goes
Oh,
back
well.
into school things.
Yeah, wow.
So one of those sort of coincidences in life.
Yeah.
And we got a list of things that we needed to go through to sort of help us set the business up correctly. Things like making sure that we got the business name registered, that we got the correct insurances, that we set ourselves up for the GST component of it, and then we got our equipment list, which came directly to us. We were off training while our deliveries were being made to the house, so thank goodness we had good neighbours. And then obviously we had to pick some of it up ourselves from places like Bunnings and yeah, I think it's pretty much Bunnings. I think Officeworks was kind of our own
Bit, yeah.
our own bit.
Because the sign writer came to your house, didn't they, to do the
yeah.
cut?
Yeah, so
Yep.
the sign writing was done. They came to us, thankfully, because it was going to be a bit difficult otherwise.
Yeah, yeah.
Trying to move for 350 kilometers.
So the training's in two parts of the initial training.
Yes.
So tell me about the first part. What happens there?
So the first part is how to run the business. It's all about introducing you to the Butler system, which is of course the client relationship program, which is an absolute godsend. I don't know that the business would run as smoothly without it, so that's definitely it. Spending a bit of time on marketing and how best to utilize your strengths to get that done. Harold always tells a story to anyone that it rings and asks him about the business, about going out and delivering pamphlets on bin day.
Ah, yes.
To get that knock and drop conversation happening.
Yes.
So that sort of really helped us along. And then the next part is actually about how to use your products, how to use the chemicals, and how to get the job done efficiently while, you know, still creating that relationship with your customers.
Yeah. Right.
So
the
yeah,
practical sort of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So things like, have you ever used a backpack vacuum cleaner before? I don't think anyone has, unless you're doing cleaning.
Yep. Yeah. So all that sort of stuff, all the practical stuff. So odd question for you. How did it feel resigning?
It was very scary.
Yep.
Because I'd been in retail ever since I left school. So I'd always been employed. I never was sort of unemployed at that point in time. So as much as starting your own business, you've got employment, but it's what you make of it at the same point. So as Pia was saying before, it's not a case where you've got a constant paycheck coming in every week. There was a sense of relief as well, that I was getting away from the trials and tribulations that I wasn't happy with, but also excited about the new journey that was going to start at the same point.
Yeah.
And that we had more control over. We were the leader of our own destiny at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, being the wife and looking at my husband coming home from work as an employee, the weight of, you know, trying to satisfy the bosses and working alongside a team that may or may not appreciate you, as then having to deal with the customers and that side of it, knowing you can do things differently, but you're not allowed to running your own business that gives him the opportunity to fix up anything that he doesn't see being done correctly or could be done better, or if there is a relationship issue, trying a different tact. As you know, what we were speaking earlier, one of the things is what we had a real estate agent that wasn't giving us any work, which was really strange because they'd given us a lot of work and then all of a sudden it dropped off. So we went and reconnected with them and all of a sudden the work's picked up again with them. They've got,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, we kind of, didn't have a lot of work, and the numbers wasn't there, and now we're the first people they call again.
Yeah. Really is relation. We're a people business, aren't we?
Yeah.
It's all about working with people.
Yeah, and that's the key. As part of the 8 steps training that we had, was that communication with your potential client is to be on the front foot. So if you get a lead that comes through, contact them straight away. Don't leave it 1, 2, 3, 4 hours, because then if you forget something, you don't get back to them. And that's the one thing we found when we first moved, that we were looking for trades ourselves to do stuff around the house, and we couldn't get hold of people. We were ringing numbers and no one was answering, leaving messages, no one was getting back. And that's probably the biggest thing we've found, is that when we do get a lead come through, we're in contact within a couple of minutes of the lead that comes through to the phone, and the customer on the other end gone, that was quick. Just put that call in. Oh, they said it would be a couple of hours before I'd hear back from someone. So that's what we're finding, is with that initial contact, we get on that front foot and we get the job 99% of the time, because we are on that front foot.
And we're still hearing that today. 9 months in, and people are still going, wow, you guys are so responsive. I didn't expect to hear back so quickly. Even with the quoting, every single one, everyone knows, if you ring us up, we are going out to visit you on the site, so we can walk the property with you to find out exactly what it is you want us to do. And everyone is really impressed that we don't make that appointment 2 weeks down the track. We make that appointment within days.
Actually, a question I always get asked, how do you handle this? Like, it's so many people, when they do put in an inquiry, just say, oh, just tell me your hourly rate. How do you handle that?
Probably the biggest thing that I've found with that is asking more questions first. Asking what style of service they're after. Is it a weekly? Is it fortnightly? Is it a monthly? Is it just a one-off? How big the premises is. So get more detail of what they require, but then also explaining to them is that sight unseen, it's very hard for us to be able to give them a price, because we don't know the state of what your shower screen's like, whether you want an oven to be cleaned at the same time. So the oven could be charred black inside and it's going to take a couple of days to clean it, or it could be it's immaculate and it'll just be a quick wipeout through. So explain to them is that attention to detail that we give when we do the quote, and we also walk with them and they tell us what they want to have cleaned at the same point, because what we would say would be in a basic clean, they mightn't want that done. So we tailor the quote to suit their actual needs. The same point, and that tends to sort of twist them around that little bit more, and saying you still get the odd one that says, oh, how much is your hourly rate, and all they're interested in is an hourly rate, because they're probably trying 3 or 4 different cleaners to try to get the cheapest hourly rate through. But then explaining it is a fixed price, it is a satisfaction guarantee, giving them all the benefits at that same point tends to turn them around.
And I probably do it a slightly different way, in that I kind of explain to them that if you're paying somebody by the hour, they're not as likely to work as quickly as they need to, or they're only going to give you exactly that amount of time. So if it's a 2.5 hour job, but they've only quoted you 2 hours work, they're not going to do the job. We're going to give you a fixed price quote. You're going to know exactly what we're going to do, and we're going to deliver that, even if it takes us longer than we originally thought.
That's right. I used to have the same thing in my own cleaning franchise, and then people would estimate, I know it's going to take 4 hours to do this job, and it's like, well, how do you know? I mean, you've got to politely say it, but how do you know? You've never run a commercial cleaning business. We've got great chemicals, and we're trained in this stuff, and we have even cleaning a bathroom. As you guys know, there's a set step-by-step process to get it done to gold medal standard, but extremely quickly. And it's all those sort of things that makes the hourly rate irrelevant. We'll give you an exact price so that you know exactly what you're paying. Well, another question for you. For each of you, what's been the hardest thing in the 9 months for you? in having your own business doing this?
For me, would be backing myself to know that if I follow the system, that it is going to work. Where you start to get a little bit sort of overconfident and you go, oh, I don't need to do this, I'll do it my way.
Yeah.
All of a sudden it gets a little bit quieter, then you start going back to the marketing, how you're supposed to do that through Facebook, all of that at the same point. You're knocking drops, you're contacting your real estates, those sort of bits and pieces, your Google post, Google business, go back to those basics, then the work itself naturally flows back through. So it's taking that cockiness out of it, I suppose, that I know how to run it better. The system works. We found that where we did the job today, we're on a main road. So the car itself, that's sign written, is out sitting prime position on the main road. There was a car park at the back of the building that we could have parked in, but we went, no, it's the through traffic going to see the car that's then going to be that advertising bonus for us where we don't have to. It's a little bit more of a pain to sort of walk back and forth to the car to start unload, but the marketing side of it was just priceless.
Prime position,
Well, yesterday was a perfect example. We parked on the street instead of in the driveway. Guy across the road came across and said, hey, have you got a card? I might have some work for you.
Yeah, that's how it works, isn't it?
Yeah.
So for yourself, Pia, what have you found the hardest?
The physicality of it.
Yes.
I've had a misspent youth and I have really bad knees. So, you know, having to adjust the bodywork around how to get those little nooks and crannies done. So obviously not sacrificing the level of service, just how I do it has probably been the hardest thing for myself. That and working with this guy. You know, once upon a time I'd spend maybe 12 hours a week with him, other than when we're both unconscious. And now I'm spending, you know, 38, 40 hours a week with him, which is a little bit different. But it's been.
I know for my wife and I, when we started working together, it was just trying to work out who's responsible for what. So we each had our own areas, and then we didn't rub each other so often. Well, we talked about the hardest thing. What's been the funnest thing? What's been the thing for you that's been the most enjoyable? You got to tell me about Christmas, Harold. You got to talk about
that. For me, with so many years in retail itself and me having to work weekends, public holidays, Christmas Day, all those sort of bits and pieces, is being able to have those days themselves off. So I know now that we don't have to work a weekend if we don't want to. We're only working it if it fits into what we want to do at the same point in time. Public holidays, and Christmas last year was the first Christmas I'd had off in 15 years. That I wasn't on call for going into looking at fridge alarms, those sort of bits and pieces. So I could crack a beer at 10 o'clock in the morning and go, hey, let's enjoy Christmas. So it's having that sort of break away from being an employee at the same point. So it's my own destiny.
And for yourself, Pia?
Surprisingly, it is doing the cleaning. Being able to see that every day I can go to someone's house and make a difference that helps them. One of the ones that we do, they're starting to make some changes. They've been in the house for 5 years and they've spent so much time cleaning it as well as working full time that they haven't been able to do the things that they wanted to do on the property. And since we've been working there, they've gone, we've just made so many plans to do this with the property that we never thought we'd get to because we're doing the cleaning for them. So it's really that sort of knowing that what I do makes an impact on other people in a positive way, which is really something that you can see each and every time.
Okay. Well, here's a real tough question for you. Take a lot of honesty here. So have there ever been days where you felt like just giving up?
No, I haven't.
I won't say not entirely. There have been some really hard physical days where we've done exit clean after exit clean after exit clean, especially at the beginning, where physically I didn't know if I could do it.
Yeah.
But now that we've got our regulars in and it's not such big jobs every day,
Yeah.
not a chance.
Yeah.
Not a chance. I look forward to doing this for the next few years and onwards, and bringing people on to start the love of it that we have.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
funny, you
mine's
know, I
just
have
been-
so many people. Sorry, go on, Harold.
Mine's just been that weight that's been lifted since we've taken on the franchise.
Yeah.
Where I've been carrying such a heavy weight for so many years. It's a pleasure now.
Yeah.
Happy to get up in the morning, where it's not a case of where you look at it and go, oh no, I've got to get up, got to go to work, got to go do this, got to go do that. You now look at it and say, hey, I'm up.
Yeah.
I can enjoy the day.
But it's
Yeah.
also the hours that we do. Like when I was working in Sydney, I'd be up at 5 because you take over an hour to get into the city, and I'd have to be in the city early, and I wouldn't be getting home until, 10, 12 hours later, depending on what the day had shown. And Harold was the same. He was doing 15, 16-hour days, and half of that time away from work was traveling to and from work. And now we work 6 to 8 hours a day if we're doing a big clean. And the rest of the day's ours. Like we don't start much before 9 o'clock, and 9 times out of 10 we finish by 3. So we get the chance to, especially when it's summer, to be out on the lake or out on the ocean, walking the dog, which we would never have thought of having a dog in Sydney. Because we like to spend time with our pets. And we just see so many people that, especially if you've got kids in school, that they'd be missing out on so much of their life. And running a business like this is just life altering, because you actually get to spend that time with them.
Yes, that's it. So true. See, so many of the families we have in James, they'll just do school hours, drop the kids off to school, pick the kids up from school, and have that work-life balance.
Yeah, and you can.
Yeah, that is good. So who does the admin in the business? So does it take hours and hours, or how do you find it? The process is okay?
Butler makes it so much easier. I can imagine having to spend hours if it was, and this is one of the reasons why we chose a franchise, because we didn't need a business plan, and we didn't need to set up our own systems to make sure that it all fell into place. The Butler calendar has us knowing exactly what we're doing each week, each month, with what's pre-planned and what our regulars are looking for. And it's just, it's on our phones, it's on our laptop, it's on the desktop. Is an absolute godsend. Of course, then you've got your bookkeeping, which if you can add up and subtract and keep your accounts in line, it's not that difficult. I probably spend a few hours a week maintaining it, other than obviously putting in the quotes, which is probably the longest part of it. But at the same time, everyone knows what's expected of the job.
Yes.
With those quotes. So making sure that if it's 2, 3 bedrooms, what's expected to be done in those bedrooms, how many bathrooms, is there a bath, is there a shower, is the toilet separate, making sure that all of that's in that quote means that the customer and us know exactly what to expect for the money that they're spending, and the value that they're going to get.
Yes.
And we both do quotes. It's not just we walk in and go, okay, I've gone and looked at this one, and there you go and put the quote into the system. We both do the quotes. So the ease of the system and how it populates through makes it quite easy to actually do the quoting, and then to email it off to the client at the same time. It's a breeze of a system.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's been I think the single biggest thing we've spent money on since we bought the business, because when I first joined James, everything was paper based. You literally just handwriting and all that. And my writing is meaning it's very messy. It's totally changed things. And it's just, I just had literally a call today. Someone had booked an appointment with me, And I was able to just put the email address into the system and thought, oh, wait a second, I've spoken to this person before and this is what happened. And like everything was there, every single interaction that I'd done with the person and all my notes. And without the system, I would never have remembered. Yeah. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being super difficult, 1 being, what were you expecting it to be before you started?
I think we had different scores for that one, so you can say yours first.
I was looking probably around a 6 to 7.
Yep. In difficulty.
Again, it's that unknown entity of what to expect.
Yep.
Yes, you can walk in and go, yeah, it's going to be a breeze. But then it's when you start sitting down and thinking about your marketing, your knock and drops, and that's probably the biggest thing I struggled with was in the beginning was the pounding the pavement, dropping it in the mailboxes, knocking on people's doors. That's why I came up with the idea of bin day, because people are out in their yards anyway, and it's easier to talk to someone as you're walking past and just open up with the hi, that you get that initial interaction. But when you've got to stand there at a closed door, knock on the door and wait to see if it opens, that's probably the biggest thing. That's probably I found that I struggled with, was to that sort of initial interaction. Seeing someone out in public, completely different kettle of fish, because dealing with retail, dealing with customers on a day-to-day basis, you have that sort of, you can walk up to someone, but when you've got to go through a closed door, it's a completely different aspect.
Whereas
How about yourself, Pia?
I expected it to be quite high. I didn't know how I'd adjust to being my own boss, to not having to get out of bed of a morning if I didn't want to. The idea of cleaning somebody else's house when I don't like housework myself. It was I was probably 8 towards a 9 going, I don't know how this is going to go. And I think that I made it pretty apparent to yourself when going into this, and that's part of the robust conversations we had, and you're going, you'll find it gets easier. The initial startup is the hard part, and once you've gotten into it, you'll find that you're okay. I was really nervous and hesitant about the whole process, of no longer being an employee but being my own business. And as I said, 3 months in, and all of those fears are gone. The business was taking off. We were even talking back originally from going, okay, this will be a slow burn, we'll build it up regularly, to us now going, we need to put an employee on. We need to bring somebody in to help us with the size of the business as quickly as it's growing.
Well, what would be, given that people considering possibly joining James are going to be watching this, what are some things that you think, questions they should be asking, bits of advice for people that are looking, that they should check out and think about before they jump in? Like for myself, I try and tell everyone, look, it is going to be really hard. I find people, there's almost like this Aussie mentality, I think, when you when you have your own business, there's like money just hanging on the trees. You just go pick the money, because I'm a business owner. And it's not like that, is it?
It's I guess we were lucky in that where we landed here on the Mid-North Coast in Foster, the professionalism that we brought was fresh to the area. So we kind of lucked in. But definitely the idea of cleaning someone's house, especially in the current climate, you're not going to be earning hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. It is going to be that create your marketing, then take the next step and the next step, and they are baby steps to get the business growing. It's not running your own business is great. Like I definitely wouldn't suggest going back to becoming an employee, but definitely take the time to work out a year plan, a 6-month plan, a 2-year plan and up to 5 years, because you will be building the business the whole time. It's not something that you can go, yep, I'm going to get 10 employees in the first 12 months. That's just it doesn't work like that. The idea of cleaning your own home is definitely a luxury for the people paying you. And it's got to make sense for them, and you've got to deliver it every time. Otherwise you will lose them, and then you've got to try and find somebody else to replace them with to keep your income up. And it's that sort of duality of doing the best you can by keeping it financially viable and then still building the business that you've got to juggle the whole time. So it's definitely daunting, but it's definitely something that we can do because we did it and are doing it.
But also to be responsive at the same time is when you do get an inquiry, don't let us back burner. Right? Get in touch straight away, follow up, do your work with your real estates, and be on that front foot with them at the same point, because they will then help you. If you help them, they'll help you at the same time. But you've got to be on that front foot. You can't just sit back and say, oh, all this work's going to flow into me because of the leads that get generated. I just got to sit here and my phone will keep going off. You've actually got to get out there and do that sort of hard work, build those relationships with different people, and then the people that do ring you at the same point. Is you've got a fresh start every time that phone rings or an alert goes off. Don't sit there and wait. So probably one thing that Pia and I do have a little bit of angst with is on weekends. When particularly with when a lead comes through, I'll jump on the phone and arrange to do something for later that week, or early on the Monday, where it's our day off. Yes, you still have your days off, but if a lead still generates, because that's when they're thinking about when they want work done at the same point. So it might be they work Monday to Friday and they only have Saturday, Sundays to sit down and say, okay, well, what am I going to do? That doesn't mean you've got to go and quote it on the weekends. You can still have your own time at that, but it's still just monitoring at the same point. And Jo's wonderful with the leads that she sends through. And she monitors for us at the same point. So again, it's just being that responsive at the same point. Is the quicker you're onto it, the more chance you've got of actually tying it up.
So talking about getting into it quickly, how did it go for you at the start, if you mind sharing, like income-wise, sort of like, did you have to wait months before you earned anything, or what happened?
We started the business officially started the business on November 13th, and November 16th, we had our first job and we had our first paycheck. So we got paid that day, because it was a private clean. The very first week, I think we did something like $1,200 in business. The second week, I think, was a blank week for us. We didn't do anything.
That's right.
Which wasn't too surprising for us. We didn't expect to make any money the first week. So, but again, the third week was back up to $1,500, and our average now, and it was very quickly, the average, I think we've spoken about this too long, is our average is about $2,500 a week. So that we do have high weeks and low weeks. But I think the turnover for us is at least $9,000 a month.
Great. Excellent. Thanks for that.
One thing we've also made a rule of is when we are doing a vacate clean, is that job's paid for before we start. We've enforced that with everyone, and people have been very receptive to it at the same point. We haven't had any kickback of saying, no, I want it done, you do it and then I'll pay you after that. So as long as you set those sort of ground rules, you're then protecting yourself at the same point, because you're not sitting back then waiting for all this money to come through because you've done all this work. The only thing is just when you just talk to the real estates is find out what their payment system is. Some of them are only once a month. Others are, they do a mid-month pay run as well. So it's just balancing that at the same point. But definitely if you're doing a lot of exit claims privately, always have them paid first.
So we've for us, we were lucky. I think luckier than most in that our business was very much over $1,000 almost from the get-go. Whereas we know that we've spoken to a couple of the guys from our group, because we had a rather largish group intake doing the 8-step training, which is the admin training and the business training. They had a much slower build and kind of were wondering whether they'd made the right decision. And of course, they're all pretty good now.
So any regrets?
Definitely not, no.
No, definitely. I was very happy to say I was wrong. I don't say that too loudly too often, but no, it's definitely. I would recommend it to a lot of people. If you're looking to take on something that you can control, as opposed to having an employer that may not appreciate you, or you finding things are not going your way. Make the change. It's definitely not something that they won't let you fail. The franchise is invested in you succeeding, and because of that, and especially with the subscription model, it allows you to take those baby steps to build the business and be comfortable with it.
Well, just in closing, I guess, actually, no, something else we haven't talked about, but the business coach. So what's it like having a business coach? For a lot of people that I talk to, it's like, oh, that sounds a bit scary. What does the business coach actually do with you? Has it been of value?
Absolutely. It really, I mean, you're talking about people who went from being an employee who got told what to do, or, this is what's expected this month, and this is our expectation, and this is the ethos of the company, to running your own business. And yes, you have the franchise framework, but to apply that in a day-to-day basis, the business coach is absolutely vital. I think we're on the phone daily to Ian the first few weeks, Ian being our business coach. How do I quote? We've just got how do I quote a residential? How do I quote a corporate clean? How do I quote this? And then, okay, they didn't pay us. What do we do? How do we chase it? All those sorts of things that you never do as an employee. You sort of having that person hold your hand and give you their experience, and then giving you suggestions on how to keep the business growing. Even now, it's a case of, we talk about, okay, we're looking at putting an employee on, and we've never been employers. We've worked with employers, and I've done onboarding and things like that. But how do I go about creating the ad, to the things that I should be looking for? What are the pitfalls? What are the things that I need to do, like having extra insurance to make sure that everyone's safe? All of that sort of information you don't think of. You just kind of go, okay, we can do this. But it's great having that experienced person take you through and hold your hand and answer every question, and ask the questions you haven't even thought of.
And just set you different challenges at the same time to help you grow at the same point. So it's not just the business coach giving you all the answers. It's also refocusing the question back to you so you can answer at the same time. So giving you the confidence then of saying, okay, hold on, we had this discussion 2 weeks ago. It's very similar to it. Oh, okay, this is how and then you grow at the same point. And they're there to help you grow at the same point.
Absolutely. It was interesting. I saw a comment on one of our Facebook ads recently where someone said, oh, why do you want a franchise? You can find everything you need to know on the internet. And it's like, well, why does any footy team have a footy coach? You know, we all know how to play footy. You can find out anything you need to know about playing footy on the internet. Why do footy clubs pay all this money for a footy coach? You know, it's because, yeah,
Well,
they bring skills and help, and they know how to work with you, you know. So
using that sporting metaphor, you're not a professional sports person without a coach.
Yes. Yeah,
It's that simple.
Yeah, well, I'll have to remember that's a good line, Pia. Professional sports person without a coach. And, you know, are you a professional business operator without a business coach or someone to really, you know, because like you said, Pia, for all of us, myself included, we've been employees, and then you start a business and it's not as easy as people think. There's so many different things that you got to keep it, you know, from the marketing. You know, when I started in my first James business, we were just told, oh, you just whack an ad in the yellow pages. Well, you know, if you did that now, I mean, who looks at the yellow page? I don't even know if they still print them.
They don't. It's all digital. But I'm thinking there's quite a few generations there of going, what's a yellow page?
Yeah. And now, you know, so much of it's online and all the stuff that we do online on Google and Facebook and all that sort of stuff that obviously, as you know, is all in the training and the marketing team does a lot there. So
it really is one of those things of so many businesses fail in their first year because of things that you haven't thought of and can't do. And that business coach is definitely your safety net.
Yeah.
So it's definitely one of the things that helped me out a lot. And I know Harold as well in changing the employee thought process to business owner process.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I know we've had a long chat, but just in wrapping up, I guess for each of you, what's been the biggest lesson learned in the journey so far?
Biggest would be to back yourself.
Yep.
Back yourself, believe in the system. The system does work.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think just, oh no, well, I can do it better. But the system's been developed. It's there for a reason. Follow it, and you'll reap the rewards that come back from it.
Yeah. That's good. That's good.
And for me, it's finding a niche. It's like there are so many opportunities when it comes to interior cleaning businesses. You can do residential, you can do corporate, you can do holiday homes, you can do Airbnbs, and everything in between. It really is, it's what you make it, and it's what suits you and your lifestyle. And that's been one of the things where I've kind of gone, oh no, I've got to take on every sort of cleaning business that I want, that comes my way, but doesn't necessarily suit us. And being able to sort of pick and choose that and find what we do well and keep and do that as a business owner is what's led to our success story.
Right. Very good. Well, thank you so much for that. Is there any other pearls of wisdom you want to throw in, or
I think just one of the things is a lot of people are afraid of the franchise fees by joining a franchise. And I think if I can give advice to anyone looking at the business and going, why would I pay these guys so much of the money I'm making? It's because the support is there. And if you're not making anything, they're not making anything either. Whereas if you go out on your own and start a business, nobody cares. And definitely joining a franchise, yes, there are franchise fees, but they're there because it helps you build your business in the long run.
So true. So true. Yeah, because, you know, as I was a franchisee myself, so I went through a similar process to you guys. And after that first meeting where the James person went through and explained the fees and all that, I mean, when they left, I got out a piece of paper and I just put a line down the middle and I went, Justin's Lawn and Garden Care, James Lawn and Garden Care. And I worked out what the fees would be based on what I was, you know, estimating I'd earn in the first year. And then I sat down and wrote down everything that they told me that I'd get for that. And I just estimated back then. I had no great idea, but I estimated all the costs. You know, if I built my own website, if I, you know, got my own professional brochures done and business cards and blah, blah, blah. And I just wrote them all down and I added it up. And then I added up what the fees were going to be. And it was actually going to cost me more in that first year to set it all up myself than have James do it, you know, and I would have had nowhere near the quality of, you know, websites. And like we have teams of people working on that sort of stuff all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
And believe me, when Google changes things and links break and things like that, you know, I have people on it 24/7 keeping an eye on this. If it was my own Justin's lawn mowing business, it'd take me 6 months to know that a link had broken on a page and stuff like that.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And Butler is one of those systems of, I know that it's something that the franchise pays a lot to maintain and upkeep and evolve. But for every single franchisee using it, it's an absolute godsend.
Yeah. Yeah. It cost us hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it costs us tens of thousands of dollars every quarter. So, yeah, and it's brilliant. It is, but you got to pay for it, right? And it's the same with the fee. I guess we have to pay Salesforce a lot of money to have this great thing. And in a sense, that's what the franchise fees do for you. It gives you access to all these systems and support. And as a small percentage, it sort of, that's what attracted me to, was every other franchise I looked at was a set fee. So it didn't matter how my franchise went, you know, if I just still had to pay the same amount. Whereas in James, if Harold and Pia are struggling, well, James is making next to nothing. So, you know, our whole, as you know, our whole business model is about supporting you and trying to have every resource you could possibly need at your fingertips to help you grow.
And I like getting to that higher threshold where I pay that little bit less.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, because the fee drops off. Yeah. Yes. Well, you guys will be over there quite regularly.
Getting there.
Yeah. Very good. Well, thank you so much for your time this afternoon, and I really enjoyed having that chat.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure to reflect back on sort of the journey so far. You don't do that much as a business owner, and probably something that we need to do a little bit more regularly.
Yeah, absolutely. And for anyone watching this, if you want to check out more about Harold and Pia, they do have a webpage on our website, so you can jump on there and have a look up at Foster Tongue Curry and find out a bit more about them. But
yeah, or talk to Justin and then give us a buzz and we'll give you a chat. We're not
sounds good. Very good.